All right, let's go to Pete Fiutak. Pete, I hope all is well. Welcome into the game in Tuscaloosa.
What's going on with you? How you been?
Well, we're good, man. We're just, college football beginning to kind of heat up here. We're only 88 days away. Players already working out here in Tuscaloosa. I mean, life is good, man.
We're hoping.
I mean, we got voluntary workouts. You know what voluntary is?
Yeah, right. It means they volunteered you for this.
It's like
I'll buy in. Yes, I'll buy in fully once I see another sport going. But look, all signs are pointing to at least giving it a shot. So, all right, that's all positive.
Yeah, the volunteer part of it is kind of like your wife and my wife asking you to take out the trash.
Pretty much, yes. That's how that works. No, there's nothing voluntary about. Well, you know what? Yeah, we joke, but that's actually kind of an issue because it needs to be voluntary because not everyone's going to be 100% comfortable right now. So going forward, especially with players having more power than ever right now to be able to speak out, there's going to be some players out there who aren't necessarily going to feel all that great about being around other people right now. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out over the next several weeks and months.
Pete, when I look at when I back up and I look at Coach O for just a couple of minutes, is he the second best coach in the SEC? Is he the second best coach in the SEC?
How you want to define best? I mean, here's the problem.
Okay.
Here's the thing. Are you going to define best? Whenever you get into a best coaches sort of debate and argument, are you going by, okay, like what's your parameters? Are you going to NASCAR this thing and say if you take all 14 SEC head coaches, give them the same facilities, the same players, and say which guy do you want? Or do you go with the, who do you want for the next, if like you were to have a draft and say, okay, for the next 5 years, who do I want as my head coach? Or just, because it's kind of a little bit of a rigged question only because there's a difference between coaching at LSU and an Alabama and coaching at, say, a Vanderbilt or even like a Mississippi State. So to a long-winded way of saying, yeah, he's really good. He had arguably the greatest season, in the history of college football by one team last year. So obviously he's right up there. But again, like, is it, the system? Is everything around him? Is the assistant? Or do you give the guy credit for creating the system that got them there in the first place? Because it's easy for us to say, hey, look, LSU's got all the advantages, but so does Tennessee and so does Texas A&M, and they're not winning national championships yet. So long-winded way of asking, what's your definition of best?
Okay, but I mean, there's no argument that Alabama's Nick Saban is number one, right?
I mean, sure. I mean, give him credit. Yeah, I mean, how do you not? I mean, but that's also based on past. I mean, that's based on resume. That's based on, what he's been able to do. I mean, you're not talking about, greatest of all time. Certainly, he's right up there. But what are you referring to as best? Like right now, if you're saying for the next 5-10 years, okay, is he going to be, the coach of Alabama for the next 10 years? Maybe. But again, if you're going to NASCAR this thing and say, who's going to be the coach who, can do the most? I don't know. Mark Stoops is doing a whole lot with a whole lot less than some of these other coaches. I'm really curious to see. Eli Drinkwitz is a fantastic coaching prospect. I love the idea of Lane Kiffin. But, yeah, in just a general sense, if you're going to say who the best coaches are, yeah, obviously Saban's one. And then, you want to go by resume? Well, Jimbo's got a national championship. So, do you put that in the mix? So it gets kind of interesting when you really want to dive into, how do you want to define best?
9.5 wins is the projection for this year when you take it the odds makers and you look at the LSU Tigers. Over, under, Pete Fiutak?
Over. They're going to be still good. I mean, it's so hard when you lose that much NFL talent and think, okay, well, now they're just going to kind of take a step back. And again, but they're replacing a lot of guys with a lot of really, really good players. I mean, you're not going to do that again. You're not going to have the season you had last year. It's just that has to be. I will be shocked if that's not a once-in-a-lifetime thing. I mean, that was just you just cannot replicate that kind of explosion, especially in a conference like the SEC where everything sort of works. But if you go through their schedule and if you go through their talent, I mean, it's still there. They still have one of the best secondaries in college football. They're still loaded at receiver. They're still loaded on the lines. It's amazing that they lost all that talent, and yet they are still going to probably be, you got to put them somewhere in the top 3 or 4 of the SEC.
Let's go to the Auburn Tigers for just a couple of minutes. When you take a look at the Auburn Tigers, they're sitting there at about 8.5 wins. Over/under for the Tigers down in Lee County. Those Tigers.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, again, you got to win all the non-conference games. You have to assume you're going to get through those. And like, where are the Mississippi teams going to come in? Like, how much of a differentiating factor is Mike Leach going to be at Mississippi State right away? How much can Lane Kiffin do to make Ole Miss at least a team that you have to worry about right out of the gate? Arkansas, you have to kind of still assume is the free space game in the West. But everyone else, who can bite up and get you. So if you look at the Auburn schedule, you might say like it's about 8. But they're going to be great. I mean, this is another really, really, really good team. And now you have to assume that Bo Nix, with a year under his belt, is going to open it. They're going to open it up a little bit more. So there's enough there where it's the SEC's problem. You can be really, really good and still only win 8 games.
So let me look at the Alabama Crimson Tide. 10.5 wins on their win total, Pete Fiutak. Over/under.
All right, I don't have the schedule in front of me. I'm sure you know it right by heart. Give me the tough road games out there. They got to go to LSU, right? That's one.
Yeah, and you got you count neutral site games against USC, or you think they're going to thump them?
Yeah, well, I don't know if they'll thump them. USC is really good, but I think they're going to win. They play Georgia, right?
But Georgia's here. Georgia's here. So third week of the season, they do go to Ole Miss. Nah. At Arkansas, no.
No.
Well, now, the off-season champions are going to be hosting Alabama October the 24th in Neyland Stadium in Tennessee. So the off-season champions. I mean, there's off-season.
Hey, you mock, but hey, they're but for they're but for one play. Tennessee was right there with your Tide. That thing was about to get a little dicey until you had the strange decision to go, jump over the line and try to go for a quarterback sneak for a touchdown there. So I'm with you. They haven't beaten, lost to Tennessee in forever, but that's still a little bit that goes into the bucket of but maybe. Like Arkansas, no, for example. But if you were to take like 3 games and say, you know what, out of these 3. You got to assume at least one's going to be really dangerous. We're on the wrong day. Something could go wrong. Tennessee's got to be one of them.
So you look at Tennessee on the road, off week, and then at LSU, Tiger Stadium. So maybe that's the difficult game. And you got
that's a difficult one.
You got UT Martin, Texas A&M is here, Auburn's here, and then SEC Championship in Atlanta. We're already counting there.
Okay, so there you go. So like, Alabama, if it's not the best team in the conference this year, it's number 2. Start with the fact that they're going to be great. But look at those games. I mean, would it be a shocker if they lost at LSU? No. And then again, put those 3 games you mentioned in a bucket. Take Georgia, take Texas A&M, who's going to be a whole lot better this year. At least they should be. Throw Auburn in that mix as always, and throw the game at Tennessee. And there's 4 games. And, you know this better than anybody, we've been talking about this for years, all it takes is one extra weird loss. All it takes is, you can legitimately lose to LSU and it wouldn't be a shocker. And all it takes is one sort of off day, kind of, you could have to, forget the rivalry aspect of it. You could say that was the Auburn game of last year where they did everything right except continue to turn the ball over way too in a couple key spots, and there comes the loss. So, that's all it takes. That's the difference between playing for the SEC championship and going to the college football playoff. It's being 10-2 or being 11-1, and there's just enough of those games where 10. So to answer your question, 10.5. This is a tough one, because they don't have. It's so hard right now because you don't have spring practice to go off of. They don't have the quarterback situation locked down yet. I would almost have to say under, just because asking for 11 wins out of anybody is usually just you're asking for the world, unless you're talking about Clemson, and that's because their schedule is so easy.
So, Pete, we traveled to the SEC Eastern side of things for a couple of minutes, and we look at the Gators. I know you've written a preview. They're right there on the front of the page, collegefootballnews.com. You kind of broke down Dan Mullen of the Gators down in Gainesville. 9.5 wins for those guys. Where are you at?
Yeah, you probably have to go over with them. I mean, they don't have any superstars that you know of. I mean, there's no household names, but they're just rock solid right across the board. And going back to your initial question, how about Dan Mullen in that mix of top, head coaches in the SEC? I mean, talk about doing, maybe not the least, but he was able to succeed at Mississippi State. That was what he was able to do there. Granted, the off-season, the non-conference schedules weren't always that great, but he was able to pull off wins. And, fun trivia question, his Mississippi State team with Dak Prescott was the first ever number 1 ranked team in the college football playoff ranking. So, he was able to do some big things there. And then takes over a 4-win Florida team and wins, 21 games in 2 years. He's doing a fantastic job. So I'll have to go over because you look at their schedule, it's just not that bad. They miss Alabama. They do have LSU as always, but that's at home. The Georgia game, and then you have a couple of dangerous road games in there. But still, I think this team's going to be good enough to put them at about 10 wins.
All right, Pete. You're the athletic director at a major Power 5 institution.
Yes, I am.
Yes, you are. 50% capacity. Who do you tell to go away, and who do you tell you're welcome inside the stadium?
In terms of people?
Yeah.
First of all, I don't know if I'm realistically getting 50%.
Okay. Then 40%. I got to put on a model at less than that. I think Ohio State's modeling this out at 20. Oh, my heavens. Wow.
I know it depends on the region, and I know it depends on, I know in some places sort of opened up and now, the different belief systems and all that, but all it takes is one outbreak, and this changes, and it's going to go by region by region. Like some places, there's just not going to be an issue, and some places there are. You just don't know, and the X factor in all this is going to be what happens when the students show up. And now you got people, what's the thing that's happening is that there's college towns all over the country which aren't having outbreaks, which aren't having big problems, and in about 2 months or so, they're going to be infiltrated by 50,000 people from all over the world coming into their little college town, and they're all going to be confined. We have no idea what's coming from that. So if I'm a major athletic director, first of all, I blew it because I kind of biffed the last 2 months to try to figure out how to put this together. And secondly, I got to just plan all budgets that we're not going to have fans in the stands for 2020 season. And if there are, good. Hopefully there are. Let's, what's the line? You prepare for the worst and plan for the best, or hope for the best, or whatever that is. So hope for the best, but if I'm a major athletic director, I cannot rely on having fans in the stands for these games because it's hard enough trying to figure out how to get the players on the field and keep them healthy because you're the one who brought this up, I think, the last time I came on with you, and I've used this in other examples. What happens if it's the night before Georgia and Alabama and 3 wide receivers on one team turn out to test positive? What do you do? Because now you quarantine that whole team. You quarantine the team they played the week before, and it all shuts down. So how do you even possibly prepare for fans? They're not dealing with step one, which is making sure your scenario, what happens? What do you do in that case? And how do you can't just say, okay, we're just going to take the sick players and put them away. Well, that's not how this virus works. You got to quarantine everyone. So they don't have an answer for this yet. So I would figure that out first and then figure out the fans from there, because the other step here is the liability factor is going to be through the roof when it comes to if you go to games and you're one of these games and you're sick, you get sick or there's an outbreak from it, good luck to you, university.
Well, and when we talk about these athletic directors, Pete, they're playing with fire. They're playing with fire because if that fan doesn't donate that $3,000 for that ticket, he doesn't buy those season tickets, he goes and he gets in front of that lazy boy recliner and he sits back and he realizes the fridge is just a few feet this way, and the bathroom's just a few feet this way, and that 75-inch LED television, you got the speakers all around the room, and you can flip between channel to channel, you may never get them back. You may never get them back.
Who's got the $3,000? You know, like, yeah, of course you're always going to sell out the Auburn game. You're always going to sell out the big games. But, like, if you're saying, like, how do I take my family, you know, who knows what everyone's situation is, but there's so many people still out of work, so many people still worried about finances. You know, look at what's happening in general in terms of how people are just holding on. Even the people who are doing all right, they're not really blowing their disposable income. Who's going to say, yeah, I'm going to spend every single, weekend going to a game? I just don't think you're going to have the fans who are going to, one, want to go because they're afraid, and two, are going to have the money to go. So, again, and I say this not to be gloomy, I say this like I really wish that the athletic directors would be a whole lot smarter with this, and just their answer to everything right now is like, all right, we're just going to kind of go and see how it kind of flies from there. We'll test and we'll make sure. But, like, you're going to have to test every week, the players at least. You're going to have to test everyone all the time if you're not quarantining them. And they don't seem like they're going to do that, and there's some thought that it's kind of because of cost. So if you're saying, hey, we're not going to spend the $50,000 on testing players every week during the season, and then you give a coach like $100,000 bonus for something, that's going to be a pretty big PR problem.
Those are things that we don't think about, but Pete Fiutak, that's why we feature you, and we love talking to you.
I like the other stuff better. I cannot wait to stick to sports. I hope it works. I hope that we just go and they play, and you know what, they figure it out, and on the fly, it just, it's all good and everything. My anger in this again comes to the fact where they've had a couple months to figure out a safe way to do this, and they don't seem like they have it quite yet.
Pete Fiutak, collegefootballnews.com, collegefootballnews.com. Find it right there, Pete. As always, we thank you so much for your time. I hope you have an incredible day, man.
Later on.